Well, thanks for not judging me. I I know. I was bribed by an old man into helping him, enabling his drug addiction. That was not the shining moment in my youth, but it you learn about yourself sometimes. And I'm helping him up out of the bed, and I thought we were going to go for the wheelchair, but he grabbed a cane and kind of hobbled around. And he was pointing back through the kitchen. We walked through the house. I had the $100 by this point, by the way. I'm kind of helping him, kind of walk along beside him, got my hand on his arm. We go through the kitchen, and the shed that he's talking about is actually like you walk down the little steps and you go to the back door of the house from the kitchen, and then you walk out the back door, and there's basically no space between that door and this shed, which I don't know. It could have been a garage, but obviously it had never been used for that purpose. It was about that size, and there was a door, and had a like one of those locks on it, on a combination lock, but it was latched shut, brand new lock, which I guess was an indication of Tina's conviction that he not get in there. And I was like, well, it's locked, sir. What do you think? I didn't know if he thought he had a key or something like that. And he says, $100 if you kick that door open. Reaches in his robe, produces another $100 bill. Not crisp bills. These were very, like he just had them wadded up in his pockets all the time, like old tissue. And he hands me another one. And at this point, I'm on board, okay? So, and he backs up a little bit, and I was in good shape. I started kicking on the door. Didn't take much to break it open. Dust, mildew smell, dark. There's no light inside. Looked like there was a window that was covered up with a blanket or something. We go inside. He's right behind me. Hits the there's a light switch on the wall that looks like it was from the 40s or something, like a button. He hits it, this old light kind of flickers on, and it looks like a workshop. It does. There's lots of shelves. There's a countertop. There's I don't know how scientific equipment. Variety of computer monitors, which surprised me. I was shocked to see the computer monitors. Varying in age. I mean, there was the old sort of box type, for like IBM, just random keyboards, and then they just sort of evolved. And there were laptops, some newer stuff, and it's just laying there, just collecting dust. There's equipment. Looks like, I don't know, like I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist. There was no, I was expecting that, old collection of vacuum cleaners and, yeah, the kind of stuff that people, collect over time and don't get rid of. This looked like a lab. It really did. An old, unused lab. There was vials, beakers, burners, like Bunsen burners. Kind of wondered if he wasn't producing his own drug, sort of like, I mean, it wasn't unusual in those days. For this guy, it would seem unusual. But there was, there it is. That's what he says. There it is. And he points off to the side. And sure enough, they're laying on the floor. It's not a suitcase like what I would call a suitcase. It was like a large trunk, leather with a handle, sort of like old brassy looking clasps. He rushes over to it. Now he's muttering, "Goddamn Tina, just throw it on the floor. What kind of, he's just enraged. He can't pick it up. He has me pick it up. I noticed there was something wrong with it, because there was a spot. I mean, it looked like something had come out of it. He threw it up on the counter. He gets it open. It has a little combination thing on the side. He opens it up. It's full of kind of look like jars, and they're broken. I don't know what I was expecting. Bags of heroin. I don't know. Some kind of junkie kit, syringes or something. But it wasn't really a syringe. Actually, that was in there. There was a tube. There was like an IV, and sort of like a little. I don't even know what to describe it. It looked like some kind of strange device, and the bottle, or more like the jar that he was holding in his hand, was broken. I guess this had been a while. I think Tina had probably been gone for a couple of months, and his hands were shaking. He was just kind of horrified, and I could see that it had leaked out of the back and the bottom of the trunk, and there was a spot on the floor that looked kind of like an oil slick that ran out to the back of the shed, like old, like underneath the boards of the wall, and he says, I'll never forget this. He goes, "Oh, that's not good." And I'm like, okay, what's not good? Besides the fact your drugs are gone. And he's like, I need you to do something for me. You need to go outside, and I want you to go around the other side of the shed, and I want you to tell me if you see anything out there. Okay. He's kind of rummaging around in the trunk. I go outside and walked around, and sure enough, the shed kind of overlapped into what had probably been an alley at some point, but it had overgrown. And then there was a neighbor's yard. It looked really nice. They had a garden, big garden. They had corn and sunflowers, just one of those absurd things where, they probably don't want to use a store. And there was just a very small space of grass before the back of the garden. And I kind of went around to the back of the shed, and I went to the spot where it looked like it come out. And sure enough, the grass, I remember when I had told you, it was a dry end of the summer, and the grass, for the most part in the area, was very weedy, and brown. And there was some very green, bright grass growing in a line to the back of the neighbor's garden. And in the back of the garden, kind of nestled amongst some tomato cages, were some cannabis plants, marijuana, which at that time wasn't unusual for the area. I mean, people had licenses. You could, I don't know what it was at that time. It was 2 or 3, 4, 5, 8 plants, whatever it was. Nobody was really enforcing anything on it at that point. But they had the plants in the back. I kind of bent down. I was looking at them and smelling them and contemplating grabbing a bud off of there or something like that. And I was looking at them, and I had just noticed that the odd color, not really too unusual, nothing that would just completely take you back looking at it, but it was strange. It was kind of like the grass. It was bright green. The smell was strange too. I remember that it had a weird kind of chemically smell to it. And that was right before there was a woman out in the yard. She screamed at me to get away from from the garden, and I just kind of took off, went back around the shed, went inside. He asked me what I saw. I told him. Oh, that's not good. and I was, and he said, well, help me look around, see if we can find anything in here. And I don't even know what we're looking for. And he says, we're looking for a chemical. And I was like, well, what kind of chemical? He says, well, have you ever seen Reanimator? No, I hadn't at that time. Since then, I've watched it. And I guess he was describing a semi-fluorescent fluid is what he was talking about. We did not find anything like that. And this is where he looks at me and he says, you need to stay away from anybody who gets hold of that shit. Okay. And the thoughts running through my head, you know, how people, yard parties and stuff like that. I'm like, is it poison? He says, well, has anyone died lately? And I was like, no, not recently that I'm aware of in the neighborhood. And I was like, sir, what exactly is this chemical, and what exactly does it do? And he just kind of shakes his head for a second, and he scratches his chin. He's got like, that gray white stubble, and he says, it was a preservative. Okay, well, what kind of preservative? For food? He says, no, for me. I had my suspicions. I thought maybe he had dementia or something like that. And, I said, okay. So, what happens to you without this preservative? And he says, I'm not gonna find out. I'm gonna get some more. But you need to watch out, boy. 'Cause that shit's dangerous.